Nobody saw this coming like this. Not the timing, not the confidence, and definitely not the way it was delivered. I was just sitting there watching First Take like any other morning, expecting the usual back and forth about the play-in, Steph's return, all that. And then the whole conversation flipped in a way that didn't feel scripted, didn't feel rehearsed, didn't feel like TV anymore. It felt real. The kind of real that makes you pause for a second and think, wait, is this actually about to happen? Because what Shannon Sharpe did on live television wasn't just another take. This wasn't a hot take thrown out for debate. He put his entire reputation on the line and said, clearly, without hesitation, that Chet Holmgren is going to be a Golden State Warrior before the end of the week. Not might be, not could be, not keep an eye on it. He said it like someone who already knows how this ends, and you could feel the room change immediately. Stephen A. didn't even jump in right away. That alone tells you something. When a guy like that pauses, it's because he understands the weight of what was just said. Shannon wasn't smiling, wasn't playing it up. He stood there like a man who had already made peace with the consequences. Now here's where it gets even more interesting, because this didn't come out of nowhere. The Warriors' situation at center has been a real issue all season. It's been patchwork, like trying to hold something together with temporary fixes. Porzingis struggling, Horford dealing with injuries, G League pickups trying to fill gaps. It's been unstable. And for a team built around precision and timing like Golden State, that kind of instability shows up fast. So when Shannon started breaking down why Chet specifically makes sense, it wasn't forced. It lined up. A 7-footer who can protect the rim and still stretch the floor changes everything for this system. And with Steph Curry, that's where it gets dangerous in a way that's hard to defend without giving something up. Because think about it in real terms. Teams trap Steph because they have to. You don't give him space. But if the release valve in that situation becomes a big who can step out and hit shots consistently, defenses start second-guessing. That hesitation alone creates openings, and Golden State has built an entire identity around exploiting those moments. Right, always with Curry, if you believe he can still lead the Warriors to another great season. And defensively, this is where people in the league are quietly paying attention. The Warriors haven't had that presence at the rim who can also survive on switches. In today's game, if your big can't move, he gets targeted. If he can't protect the paint, you get exposed. Chet brings both, and that combination isn't common. What really stuck with me, though, wasn't just the basketball side. It was what Shannon hinted at behind the scenes. Conversations already happening, front office pushing, ownership involved directly. That's not surface-level interest. That's urgency. That's a team that feels a window and doesn't want to waste it. And then you start connecting the dots. Steph still playing at an elite level, but time isn't slowing down. Draymond still anchoring the defense, but the wear is there. This team isn't just thinking about next week. They're thinking about how to stay relevant without tearing everything down. That's the hard part in this league. So when you hear something like this, it's not just about adding a player. It's about extending a timeline. It's about keeping that edge, that identity, that belief inside that locker room that they're still right there with anybody. Comment, the Bay still believes, if you trust that Golden State can rise again. And I'll say this, if even a part of what Shannon is hearing is accurate, then this isn't just another move. This shifts how teams prepare for Golden State immediately. It changes matchups, rotations, everything. Coaches would have to rethink how they guard them on both ends. What makes this even more intense is how fast this could happen. We're not talking about rumors for the offseason. We're talking days. That kind of timeline means things are already deeper than what's public. And I'm telling you right now, there are people around the league watching this very closely, because if this actually goes through, it's not just a Warriors story anymore. It becomes the story. So stay locked in here, because there's more behind this that hasn't even surfaced yet, and once the next piece drops, the whole picture might look very different. Because what I'm hearing now goes beyond just interest or fit. It's about alignment. There's a sense inside the organization that this isn't a gamble, it's timing. And when a front office starts moving like that, quietly but with intent, it usually means they believe they've found something that solves more than one problem at once. The Warriors haven't lost their identity, but they've been searching for balance. Too small in some matchups, too exposed in others, and when things slow down late in games, you can see where the limitations show up. That's been the difference in tight situations this season. Not effort, not experience, just pieces that don't fully connect the way they used to. Now imagine inserting a player who doesn't force a change in how they play, but actually enhances it. That's the key here. Nobody in Golden State wants to reinvent the system. They want to optimize it. And from everything being discussed, that's exactly how they see Chet. Not as a replacement for what they had, but as an evolution of it. There's also something else that hasn't been talked about enough, the locker room side. This team is built on trust, on understanding where everyone needs to be without overthinking it. Bringing in a young player into that environment can go either way, but when it's someone with high IQ and the ability to adapt quickly, it tends to accelerate things instead of slowing them down. And from what's being said internally, the belief is that he wouldn't need time to figure it out. He'd fit into the rhythm almost immediately. That matters, especially with games that actually decide the season coming up. There's no runway left for slow adjustments. Right? Experience wins games, if you value what the veterans bring to this team. At the same time, there's a bigger picture forming here that goes beyond just this season. The Warriors don't want to fall into that gap where one era ends and everything resets. They've seen how hard it is for teams to climb back once that happens. So every move now carries weight, not just for today, but for what this team looks like 2 or 3 years from now. And that's where this situation becomes even more interesting, because it's rare to find a move that answers both timelines at once. Usually you're choosing one or the other. Compete now or build for later. This feels like an attempt to do both without sacrificing either. You can tell there's a level of confidence behind the scenes that hasn't been there in a while. Not loud, not public, but steady. Like they know something is lining up the way they hoped it would. And if you're paying attention, that kind of confidence usually shows up right before something breaks. So here's what I need you to do right now, because this is exactly the type of moment where things move fast and most people catch it late. If you want to stay ahead of everything that's about to unfold with this situation, make sure you're subscribed to the channel right now. Not later, not after it happens. Right now. Because as soon as the next update drops, you're going to want to be here the second it hits. Comment, this story isn't finished yet if you feel like something big is about to happen with this team, and trust me, the next piece of this might be the one that confirms everything. If you're part of Warriors Nation and you want to follow every chapter of this team's journey, subscribe now. What's starting to circulate now is the kind of detail you usually only hear after a deal is already done. Names being discussed, structure of the move, how both sides are trying to make the numbers and assets line up without dragging this out. And that's the part that keeps coming up. They don't want this to linger. There's a sense that Golden State is pushing to get clarity fast, especially with the play-in right there. You don't make a move like this halfway. Either you commit or you step back. And from everything building around this, it doesn't look like they're stepping back. People close to the situation keep pointing to how aggressive the front office has been in these conversations. Not reckless, but direct. Like they already made the internal decision that this is worth going all in for. When ownership gets involved at that level, it's not just approval, it's pressure to finish it. And here's something else that hasn't been said out loud enough. Around the league, teams are aware this might be happening. That changes behavior. It affects how other teams approach their own moves, because nobody wants to be reacting after the fact. If Golden State pulls this off, it forces adjustments immediately. Now think about the timing again, right before elimination games, right before rotations tighten. That's not random. That's calculated. That's a team trying to give itself a different ceiling overnight. Comment, champions never quit, if you believe the Warriors still have the heart of a champion. Inside the locker room, you can already imagine how this would land. Veterans who know exactly what's at stake, younger guys who understand what adding a piece like that means for their roles. It sharpens everything. Focus, urgency, accountability. That's what happens when a team feels like something real is within reach again. And if this does come together, it's not just about adding talent. It's about restoring that edge that made them dangerous for so many years. The kind of edge where opponents know they can't relax for a single possession. There's also quiet confidence around how this could extend Steph's window, not by asking him to do more, but by making the game easier around him again. That's when you see the best version of this team. Not forced, not stretched, just flowing the way it used to. And I'll be honest with you, this is exactly the type of situation where you don't want to be catching updates late. Things are moving, conversations are evolving, and when the final confirmation hits, it's going to hit fast. So if you're serious about staying on top of everything as it unfolds, this is the moment to lock in with the channel. Subscribe right now because the next update could drop at any time, and you don't want to be hearing about it hours later somewhere else. Right, I still believe in the Warriors. If you trust this team can make fans dream again, because the way this is building, it doesn't feel like noise anymore. It feels like something that's getting closer to becoming real. Before we continue this story, subscribe to the channel so you stay updated with everything happening with the Warriors. And the final piece everyone is waiting on now is confirmation. Not speculation, not analysis, confirmation. Because once that drops, everything shifts instantly. Rotations change, expectations change, and the conversation around Golden State moves to a completely different level. There's a quiet tension building, the kind you feel right before something breaks. And if this lands the way it's being described behind the scenes, this team won't just be competing, they'll be forcing the league to pay attention again. Comment, Golden State still has magic if you think this team can surprise the league again. Stay locked in and subscribe now, because the moment this becomes official, you'll want the full breakdown immediately. And that's exactly where this channel delivers first.